So today we're going to dive into something that sounds simple but is actually super complex, teaching an AI how to tell one tiny corn kernel from another. And believe me, it's a challenge that could totally change the future of farming.
Go on, take a really close look. To you and me, these two kernels look pretty much identical, right? The shape, the color, that little texture, it's almost impossible to tell them apart. But what if I told you they're from completely different corn varieties?
Now, for us, this might just be a neat little puzzle. But for farmers, for the entire agricultural industry, this is a huge deal. Getting this right, knowing exactly which seed is which, is absolutely key to a successful harvest. A mistake here can mess with everything from how much they grow to the purity of the seeds.
And that brings us to, well, a kernel of a problem. You see, the way we've done this for centuries, just using the human eye, is slow, it's inconsistent, and it just can't keep up with the scale and the precision that modern farming demands.
I mean, think about it. Sorting thousands and thousands of these tiny little things by hand, that's a massive job. It's not just slow, it's also, prone to human error. People get tired, they make mistakes, and what one person thinks is variety A, someone else might call B. That kind of inconsistency is a major weak spot in a system that really needs to be precise.
So, how do you fix a problem that needs a super sharp eye and, tireless consistency? Well, as a recent study found out, you teach a computer how to see. The tech behind all this is something called a convolutional neural network, or a CNN for short. Now, the easiest way to wrap your head around it is to imagine you're training a new assistant. You basically show it thousands and thousands of pictures of corn kernels, like a giant set of digital flashcards, over and over again, until it starts to learn all the tiny, subtle patterns, textures, and shapes that make each variety unique. So, the researchers had this really methodical three-step plan. First, they built up a huge photo library. We're talking over 2,700 high-quality pictures of 8 different types of corn. Then, and this part is clever, they messed with the images. They zoomed in, they rotated them, they tweaked them. Why? To make the AI smarter, so it could recognize a kernel from any angle, under any condition. Finally, they split up that massive data set to teach the AI and then, of course, to test it.
And here's how that split worked. 70% of the pictures were for the basic training. That's the AI's school, basically. Another 20% were used to check in and fine-tune its performance along the way. But the really critical part is that last 10%. That was the final exam, a bunch of images the AI had never, ever seen before. This is the only way to know if it actually learned the skill or if it just memorized the training photos.
But the researchers didn't stop with just one AI. Oh no. They set up a competition, kind of like a digital bake-off, to see which AI model was really the best at this job.
And here are our 4 contestants. They're all different kinds of CNNs, and each one has its own unique style. You can think of the ResNet models as these really deep, careful thinkers, built with tons of layers to spot the tiniest details. VGG19 is kind of the seasoned veteran, a bit older, but known for being straightforward and powerful. And MobileNet V2 is the lightweight, speedy one, designed to run on things like phones. So the big question is, which one is right for this specific task?
Okay, so after all that training, all that testing, the results were in. The moment of truth. Which of these AIs actually had the sharpest eye in the lab? The winning model hit an absolutely incredible accuracy score of 92.54%. Let that sink in. That means it correctly identified the right corn variety more than 9 times out of 10 on images it had never encountered before.
And the champion was ResNet 50. And honestly, it wasn't even a close race. It blew the others out of the water. Even its bigger, more complicated cousin, ResNet 101. The other two, VGG19 and the zippy MobileNet V2, they lagged way behind.
This chart really just drives the point home, doesn't it? It's not just that ResNet 50 won. Look at the performance gap. There's a clear drop to ResNet 101, and then it's like falling off a cliff to the other two. Just a totally dominant performance.
But even our champion wasn't perfect. The researchers found it had one particular blind spot. It kept getting confused between the N51 variety and the N79 variety. And why? Well, as the study says, it's because their shapes and colors are just incredibly similar. Let's zoom in on these two troublemakers. You see, one kernel is a little bit rounder, more compact. The other is just a hair more stretched out. But their golden orange color and even the way the light bounces off their surfaces, they're almost identical. These are exactly the kind of super subtle differences that can trick
even a really powerful AI, which just goes to show how hard this job really is.
Okay, so a 92.5% accuracy rate is cool in a lab. But what does this actually mean for, the real world? This whole experiment points to a massive step forward for the future of farming.
Seriously, this technology could completely change the game. By making sure seeds are genetically pure, farmers know exactly what they're planting, which leads to better harvests. It cuts down on labor costs and, of course, human mistakes, making our entire food system way more efficient and trustworthy. This is a perfect example of what people are calling precision agriculture.
So here's the really crucial takeaway. Why did ResNet 50 win? It wasn't the biggest model, that was ResNet 101, and it might have actually been too complex, kind of overthinking the problem. And it wasn't the simplest either. It won because it found the sweet spot, the perfect balance. It was powerful enough to learn the tiny visual cues, but not so complex that it got lost in the noise. It's a great reminder that in AI, bigger isn't always better. Having the right tool for the job is what really matters.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. If AI is already this good at figuring out the identity of one single tiny corn kernel, what's next? From spotting diseases on a leaf to telling a farmer exactly how much water each individual plant needs, what's the next huge problem on the farm that AI is going to solve?